The son of a federal judge has been murdered in his home by an individual who is dressed as a FedEx worker. Right now, it's unclear whether this individual actually works for FedEx, but authorities have identified a potential suspect who was found with a self-inflicted gunshot wound. But the federal judge is Esther Salas, and not only was her son shot and killed as he opened the front door to their home, when her husband came to see what was happening behind him, he was also shot. Luckily, he survived and is in stable condition. Her husband is Mark, and her son was only 20 years old, Daniel. He unfortunately did not survive. So initial reports from law enforcement said that Daniel had opened the door with his father right behind him, and that's when the shooting happened. Authorities have not released any motive for the shooting yet, but here is what we know so far. On Thursday, Judge Esther Salas was actually assigned to handle a class action lawsuit that was brought against Deutsche Bank by Ali Karimi on behalf of investors who purchased securities from the bank between November 7th, 2017 and July 6th, 2020. The complaint alleges that the bank, quote, failed to properly monitor customers that the bank itself deemed to be high risk, including, among others, the convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. That's according to federal court records. She also presided over other controversial cases involving high profile figures. She also handled the 2018 sentencing of Freda Wolfson, who was found guilty of federal racketeering charges and sentenced to 45 years in prison by Salas. Wolfson was the leader of the South Side Cartel, one of Newark's most violent street gangs. So she had told friends and associates earlier that she was concerned that the work that she does might make her a target. Her husband is also a defense attorney, so that could play a role in what the potential motive was behind the shooting. But considering that the Epstein case is tied to this judge, many people are speculating that, this is yet another strange occurrence tied to Epstein.
Okay, there is something incredibly strange going on. Deutsche Bank, Deutsche Bank, Deutsche Bank. That's where it is. And so, look, let me give context on this case and then context on Deutsche Bank. So in this shooting, the police say there was another guy. The guy who did the shooting, they think for now is a guy who was involved in a case with the judge. And so you think, oh, okay, and the guy's very strange. He's an anti-feminist and he sues institutions all the time to get men's rights. He doesn't want happy hour for women, drinks, reduced drinks, etc. So very convenient that a guy who's a wacko had a case in front of this judge and killed himself after doing this shooting. That's so far the official story. That case was in 2015, and the judge ruled in his favor. So why on God's green earth 5 years later would he go to shoot a judge who ruled on his side? That makes no sense. That doesn't even make sense to a crazy person. So, okay, now we're told so far that it's a coincidence that she was just assigned the Deutsche Bank case last Thursday. I would be shocked more than I have ever been shocked in any news story if that is a coincidence. So let's get this right so far. Deutsche Bank has 3 different entities that are deeply controversial, accused of doing money laundering within the bank. There are Jeffrey Epstein, Russian oligarchs, and Donald Trump. Now, so far, Jeffrey Epstein apprehended the night that he committed suicide, which, by the way, no one outside of official government believes that he committed suicide. I challenge you to find 20% of voters, a Republican or Democrat or in the middle, who thinks Epstein committed suicide. It's preposterous. On the night that he committed suicide, the guards were magically not on their watch, and the videotape of the hallway is now missing. Oh, come on. So then we've got, I don't know if you know this part, and this is so important. 2 Deutsche Bank bankers that had access to that same area of Deutsche Bank, accused of money laundering, have committed suicide in the last couple of years. No, that's way too many suicides. Now the guy who theoretically shot at the judge has also committed suicide in a self-inflicted wound. No, there are no coincidences that large. They just aren't. I'm telling you right now, it's Deutsche Bank. I don't mean that it's the bank itself. And I don't pretend to know the inner details of who's doing this and exactly why they're doing it. But it is that portion of Deutsche Bank that has someone or some entity that is incredibly powerful, that could turn off a videotape or make it disappear from a United States prison. And that is now looking to assassinate federal judges, potentially. Holy cow, this is not some outlandish conspiracy theory. That is, again, I can't emphasize enough. There are no coincidences that large. There just aren't. So there's something ridiculous going on in this country. We're about to enter lawlessness. This is what happened in Colombia when the drug wars are at their apex. And assassinations began and nobody ever figured them out, and anybody looking into them committed suicide. So it's happened in Russia before. Russia has done it outside their country before. So I don't know who's powerful enough to do this, but if we let them get away with killing a federal judge's son and trying to kill her and her husband, then we've got anarchy and we've become a total third world country. Do I trust William Barr to investigate this appropriately? Hell no. This is one of the reasons why now I do have a more speculative theory on why this judge, why now. But if Trump wins re-election, I have no idea that he's involved, none at all. But it appears that what the folks are looking for here, other than a cover-up, is to delay. Why would you want to delay? In case Trump wins. If Trump wins, maybe we never, ever find out what happened.
I mean, look, I know that this story is not connected to Deutsche Bank or Jeffrey Epstein, but when you mentioned lawlessness, I immediately thought of what happened to Jamal Khashoggi and how there was absolutely no justice in that case either. I mean, there was indisputable evidence that you have the Saudi crown prince ordering the gruesome, brutal murder of a US resident and Washington Post journalist who went to Turkey and was murdered there, right? And you have the Trump administration trying to help the Saudis cover up for what they did. They dismembered the guy. They murdered him brutally. And what happened to that story? What happened to that case? Nothing. And then you have stories about federal agents going in to various cities, Portland specifically, and terrorizing peaceful protesters for practicing their First Amendment rights. I mean, all of these stories, what are our lawmakers doing, right? Get off Twitter, get off Twitter. Their strongly worded letters and their nonsense on Twitter means nothing. The last thing we need right now is performative politics, but that's all we get. We get performative politics from every single lawmaker, every single one of them. And I'm tired of it, okay? Over the weekend, there was a tweet about like, isn't it fascinating how senators will tweet something like, someone should really do something about what's going on in the country right now. Yeah, you're one of 100 people in the Senate who can actually push to do the right thing and get something done, but they don't do anything. The performative politics, the Twitter nonsense, that's all we can rely on when it comes to our elected leaders. And it's devastating because I feel like this country in a lot of ways is already too far gone. How many things has the Trump administration gotten away with? I mean, William Barr completely misrepresenting the obstruction of justice that was perfectly and in a very detailed way outlined in the Mueller report. What happened to that? What did our lawmakers do about that? Nothing. So nothing's gonna happen with this. Nothing.
No.
There will be no justice in this story. I guarantee it.
We can't
guarantee it.
We can't have nothing happen in this case. If now intimidating or killing federal judges is part of a political strategy, we're done for. Then we have total chaos and lawlessness, and this country will devolve so quick.
We're there. Yeah. We're already there.
All right. So anyway, look, guys, and I want to be clear. This is not about the lawlessness. Is about the election. This particular shooting is not about Trump versus Biden in any way, shape, or form. Like when I say, yeah, Trump had his money in that portion of Deutsche Bank, but I would be equally shocked if Trump knew about anything going on in regards to these suicides, etc. Now, why would I be shocked after I told you, wait, he often works with Russian oligarchs, they all have their money in this part of the bank, and hence the same people that dealt with it. That's why the portion of the bank is relevant. And apparently some people who are willing, clearly based on the fines that have already been paid, break the law on behalf of these powerful people. And Trump's also connected to Epstein. He went to his parties or was friends with him, etc. If Trump was involved in the details of any of this, there's no way that he could stop himself from talking about it, because he's a class A moron. And no one would ever tell him, because they'd know that he would blab about it. He'd say, well, nobody's better at murder than I am. So, I mean, that's why I'd be really surprised if Trump knew anything about this. It's in that sense, it's not political. For God's sake, we got to figure out who's trying to kill a federal judge. Last thing on this. So why bother? Because this case is going to go on. You can't kill, 2, 5, 10, 20 judges in a row. At some point, the case is going to continue. So why would you bother doing this now? Well, and by the way, on all the other cases she worked on, the press is, I get it, I know why they're mentioning it, it's irrelevant information, but it ain't those cases either. So there's a big giant drug dealer that she prosecuted. That was 4 years ago. Why now? Right after she gets assigned Deutsche Bank, right? And they're like, oh, she did the Real Housewives of New Jersey. The Real Housewives of New Jersey ain't assassinating any federal judge, okay? So that's not what's happening. It might be drama there, but there isn't that much drama. So the timing is interesting, because the only possible thing you can gain from shooting at a judge or a family is to delay what is coming in that courtroom. And the only reason you'd want to delay is because there's an election 4 months from now. So in that sense, it's connected. Whoever it is that's doing it, and again, I'd be really surprised if Trump had any information about it. But whoever is doing it, apparently, my best guess, and this is the part I said is speculative, it just wants to delay that trial from going forward. Not necessarily end it, but delay it. I'm sure they'd love to end it. That's much more difficult. So, this is where I would say the Justice Department should have every person assigned to this that they could possibly have assigned. On the other hand, the Justice Department is busy in Portland breaking the law over there and not actually doing their job. And it's William Barr that's the head of the Justice Department. I don't trust them to do any investigation, let alone this one. So we might not find out what happened. Anna's right, maybe ever. But if we do, it easily could be 6 months, a year, or longer before we find out.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks. Really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.